All right. So first off, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it. First question for you is tell me a little bit about how you got started in the community and just kind of your journey.
Sure. Thank you for having me, Laszlo. My name is Jessica Scalzo. I am a peer counselor who works with athletes that are struggling with chronic fatigue, chronic injuries, sometimes so much so that it is disabling, and also struggles with food. And a peer counselor means I had the same lived experience, so I get to help people with my own experience, which is really cool. And how I've been involved in the community is that these experiences that athletes have where they're like on top of their game and at very peak physical condition, and then all of a sudden, in some cases, are barely able to move, are very disabling for people where they lose a lot of their ability because of things like overtraining, under resting, and under fueling. So this is what I work with people on.
Hmm. So, and I would imagine that you yourself have experienced it. Correct me if I'm wrong. You've been an athlete, correct?
You are correct. Yes, distance runner.
Hmm. How has that experience been like for you?
Thank you for that question. It has been the same for me where I was running at a very highly competitive level for a Division I college, winning different races and awards, and then started struggling with chronic injury and then chronic fatigue to the point where I can no longer compete in my sport, but also even on the job working, I have sustained chronic injuries where I've had to quit jobs because I wasn't able to then fulfill the physical requirements anymore. So I've directly experienced this in many different ways and understand all the things leading up to it that led to my injuries. And now I do the work to heal myself and also to help others through that.
Hmm. Let's dive into that a little bit more. What sorts of things do you do in your day-to-day to sort of help others, like with the struggles that you've gone through as an athlete?
Thank you. I work with people through building relationship and having conversations. So we usually do like 50-minute talking conversations. And what we work on is discovering what actually led to this experience of being at the top and feeling so physically fit, and then all of a sudden just having this drastic change of this fatigue or these injuries. So we get to the roots of the issue because it's actually usually very, very deep as far as like psychologically how people got there. And so once we get down to the roots, then I work with people to connect to their bodies so they're able to actually like work with the signals and the wisdom that their body's giving them so they can actually respond in a way that is healing towards their body instead of pushing it to places that the body can't go. And this helps them to be able to get the signals that they need to be able to heal as much as their body will allow. And so it's really a process of bringing someone in touch with their body, being able to trust their body, and then being able to respond in a more kind, compassionate way.
Hmm. To that end, what sorts of methods do you use to sort of do that? Because I've heard a lot about CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, but like what sorts of approaches do you use for your particular type of specialty, your particular type of work?
Yes, I use something called motivational interviewing. And so basically what that is it's just asking somebody a lot of depth-oriented questions to get them to know themselves better and connect to their inner wisdom. So I'm not giving someone advice or following a particular protocol. It's really based on someone getting to know themselves as at a deep level so they can respond to their body because they're the ones that knows their body the best. I don't know their body as well as they do. And so I'm actually helping them to connect with their body and then to actually trust it because for a lot of the people I work with, they've become so disconnected from their body, they don't trust it. And they just try to force it to do things because they just want to perform at the highest level. And so for me, it's just a matter of asking questions and building relationships so people get to know their body better. And that's really the foundation of it. We do things like practicing stillness and sometimes meditation, but mostly just practicing being in touch and reading the signals that their body's giving them. But it's really just in the moment working with someone through asking questions and having them practice honoring the wisdom that comes right up in the moment instead of continuing to have continuing to second guess themselves.
Hmm. So how is this particular type of strategy method effective for these people? Because I've never heard of motivational interviewing. To me, it's pretty new.
Yeah, it's fairly new. It's something we use a lot as peer counselors. Uh, What's helpful about it is that people do not feel judged or feel like they have to do something at a particular pace. And if they're not achieving it, then they get really hard on themselves because a lot of people I work with already have a deep-seated belief that they're not good enough. And so what's good about this is it honors someone's pace and someone's capacity so they can go at their own pace and there's no judgment about it. And so people find that when there's no pressure and no judgment, and there's just 100% acceptance and it's just based on themselves, they can relax a little bit and then they become more open to actually doing the work. So I found it's actually very effective.
Hmm. I remember this one movie that I saw where I watched the movie called I Feel Pretty, and it talked about how this one woman who worked at this successful company started to doubt herself about how she looked in front of others. Because I feel like in our society, especially with women, there's an expectation that they need to look pretty, that they need to really have makeup on it, that they need to be the prettiest. But I think that sort of um, ideology is flawed.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. And one of the major pressures that is on people, and people start to have that judgment about themselves because of these outside expectations that really have nothing to do with reality. So that is very real.
Yeah. I just want to switch gears and talk a little bit about what impact your kind of work has on the greater community. What have people said when they come to you and seek for advice on like how they can be the best version of themselves in whatever circumstances they have.
Yeah. I've had a couple different responses from people. I've had people say that it was life changing, it changed their life. Another person said, like, peer counseling was the most helpful thing for me to be able to actually understand myself, particularly having an eating disorder and like what's behind that. So that's some of the response I've gotten. I've gotten a response about the part about it being non-judgmental, and people feel like they've told me that has been the most helpful thing, and it helped them to feel like they belonged. They didn't feel so alone anymore. And they also felt like somebody actually understood them because I've had the same experience. And others have said when it comes to the eating behaviors, particularly, that they're not struggling as much with food and they're actually able to fuel themselves for what they need to do for their day-to-day activities, plus like their athletic events.
Hmm. Lastly, to kind of wrap this up, what can people take away from this conversation? How can this type of work improve, the people's confidence in themselves? And also like what can other like psychologists that are in your position, how can they sort of um really help athletes, be the best that they can be? It's a two-part question.
Yeah, thank you. The first one was about confidence. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Have more confidence. I think what is really cool about peer counseling is like you said, it's fairly new. And so it's another option for people where they can actually work with someone who's been in their shoes. And that's really confidence building because you actually feel less alone and you feel like somebody finally gets me. When it comes to athletes, people feel like someone finally understands how important my sport is to me and how much this means to me. And that like means everything to athletes who are super dedicated to their sport. So it's all of a sudden going from feeling so alone to now feeling like you have someone in your corner that has your back. And so I think peer counseling is really positive in that way. Plus, it gives another option for people when they feel like other traditional treatments haven't been helpful for them. And so that's also confidence boosting because it feels like, oh, good, there's like something else. Even though this wasn't working, there is something else that could be helpful for me. And what
Yep.
was the second part of your question?
The about like what can other like future psychologists, who are wanting to enter in the sports psychology realm, because there
Mm.
is sports psychology, like how can they sort of um be more prepared, I guess, to like really deal with athletes who are going through the same struggles that you've heard clients go through.
Thank you. That's a great question. All these are great questions. I like this one because I think what is really helpful for sports psychologists is if they recognize that there is a subset of athletes that are so dedicated, so motivated that they don't really need help with motivation or taking action. But what they need is to be supported and accepted as they are, and that they just need someone to provide understanding and help them connect with themselves rather than telling them what to do or try to get them to take action, because that often causes more harm because they're already just so motivated to go out and perform and train. And so I think having understanding that these are some of the like most highly motivated people, they don't need more push to go do things, but they actually need help just being understood and cared for as they are.
Yep, that's it's important. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Mm-hmm.